Hi guys, welcome to another week of learning and assignments. Just a reminder to read everything that I write on a given bundle page or in a folder page or in a component page. The information is important. And my objective for this video includes the following items. I'm going to provide you with a little bit of insight with respect to my rationale for using a smart book. I'm also going to provide a rationale for selecting the particular author's take on introducing to students to philosophy. I'm going to provide insights, tips, and warnings that will help you get the most from the Smart Book, especially as it relates to readings and other assignments, or how the readings connect to other assignments. And I'm going to demonstrate a potential problem that I'm aware of that you might run into and a workaround. So, why have I chosen the Smart Book a Smart Book? So the idea with the Smart Book is that it helps you gauge your understanding of big ideas as you read in real time along the way. It helps you to see the relationship of how confident you are that you know something based on the reading and whether you actually know something based on the reading. It makes the reading and hence the class more engaging and more interactive. Also, with respect to the formatting, while it's only in 2 or 3 colors, I still think it has a good graphic layout. It's visually appealing and whatnot. Now, the author's way of talking about and introducing philosophy has everything to do with why I chose the Smart Book that I have with respect to the discipline. The author is really clear. He's very good at laying things out, such as the branches, the problems, the branches of philosophy, the problems that are of interest to the philosophers in working through those branches. He's really good at articulating basic positions within debates about the problems that philosophers care about. He's really good at calling your attention to key terms and concepts. He's really good at pointing out the strengths and weaknesses of various positions and theories. And he also provides a variety of perspectives, sides, and viewpoints when it comes to said problems, debates, views, theories, and whatnot. Okay, so now let's focus on maximizing your engagement with the assigned readings. I want to focus on your mindset about the readings, and where I want to go with that is that, as weird as it's going to sound, I don't want you to think of the readings as just readings. No, I want you to think of the content, ideas, and explanations you find in Lawhead's Smart Book as a series of encounters where you discover and collect new ways of looking at the familiar. So in other words, in doing the Smart Book readings, you're going to discover your presuppositions and assumptions about reality, morality, and knowledge. And we already have articulated some of those and can expose some of those with respect to what you said in your argument constructions. So one idea with this class in philosophy is it's going to take something that is familiar to you, your belief system, your ideas, your concepts, your presuppositions, your assumptions about reality, morality, and knowledge, and try to show those assumptions to you, perhaps consciously for the first time. And even if you're aware of certain assumptions or presuppositions or thoughts that you have of interest to philosophy, what it's going to do is show you those things in a new light. Okay. So another thing that I want to stress is that I want you to think about the content, the Smart Book reading assignment, as that of an actual lecture, at least in terms of the reading and Lawhead's presentation and discussion of philosophical ideas, theories, questions, and problems. I want you to think of what you read as an actual lecture that I myself might give verbatim. So our time, let me back up. So in fact, I hardly ever lecture in a classroom anyway, in a physical classroom. And the author does such a great job that there's no need for me to waste our time with me just regurgitating all the wonderful intellectual encounters you get to experience in virtue of the Smart Book and Lawhead's wonderful way of making philosophy accessible. So one reason that I chose this book and the Smart Book is to free up our time. You don't read and then just hear me repeat the same ideas again in a lecture. We get to use this salvage time to apply what we learn and to develop and hone in that process thinking and communication skills. And as we do so, you're going to see that you start to level up in ways that maybe you didn't think philosophy could assist you with. And because of all this, I get to be more present in the online environment. reaching out to you individually, creating videos, giving you more feedback and more reminders, meeting with more of you individually as necessary. So what I'm going to do is now in this part of the video is I'm going to take us to the SmartBook, show you what you initially encounter, and I'm going to offer you some strategies in terms of how to approach the assignment, because there are definitely two ways, and one I think definitely has at least one, if not several, advantages over the other. So with that, I am going to switch the view. So when you click on the SmartBook link, you are going to see something like this. You might get a tutorial at first, and if you do get a tutorial, like a video or some bullet points or some slides, make sure you work through that. McGraw-Hill is very good about providing you the most information succinctly, so it won't take you more than 3 to 5 minutes to go through the tutorial. That said, I'm going to cover some things that are not covered in the tutorial. Here you see, this is basically what you're going to see. Hi, let's get started. SmartBook review, complete the interactive reading and submit results week 3, task 1B. Here you see the due date, the duration, and the content that is covered. This estimate does not include time to read the material, but it does include time to read the questions and the prompts and figure out answers, and if need be, go back to the book to figure out what the answer is. And as you can see, this tells you how many concepts. So then you have an option. You can start with the reading or you can start with the questions. But note that when it comes to starting with the questions, the presupposition is that you're already familiar with the material. Whereas if you click this option, the presupposition is that you need to learn first before answering questions. And of course, that seems like the logical option. Now that you can start with this. And so, it'll give you your information here, and then you'll be able to go ahead and start on the assignment. And as you can see, there's a got it button, so make sure you read through this information. And then you can see it's going to start asking you questions. According to Kierkegaard, what can philosophy give us? Okay, so some of you might be tempted to just go to the internet. But if you go to the internet, you might end up looking at unreliable sources. Also, you might go down a rabbit hole where you just start following and just links. But the other thing you have to remember is that the questions and the prompts and the items in here are based on what is said in our reading. So what you might be looking for as a correct answer might not be aligned with what you find otherwise on the internet. Everything you need is in the book. And like I said, I chose the SmartBook and Lawhead's version of an introduction to philosophy because it is very digestible, very approachable, and there's a lot of stuff on the internet that is not. So here you can see that if you need help to review the concepts, you can do that, and it'll take you to the option where you can read about the concept. And so you can go in here and look. Then you can go back to the questions and whatnot. So, and then of course you'll just click accordingly. So you click your answer and then your confidence level, and then it'll let you know whether you got the answer correct or not. Now, what I'm going to recommend is that you start with the reading in chunks, okay? So why would you want to start with the reading? Because if you start with the questions, what you're looking at are trees, and you have no background information or context for dealing with the questions. But even if you use the links to the page where you can find the reading, the problem with that is going to be that you don't already have some familiarity with the material, and you're just zoning in on the trees in the chapter or a section in the chapter, thereby losing context, which could cause you to misunderstand or feel confused about what you are reading. So what I recommend is that you do a reading according to the sections that I outline for you to read. So for example, in week 3, task 1A, I give you 3 sections to read. So what I recommend you do is you start with the reading and you read the first section given. So in task 1A, I tell you to focus on one of the sections is 1.0 overview of the journey. So then what you would do is, and here's a potential problem that you might run into, what you get at first is just the top of a section. So this will take you to the next section, okay? So in order to read everything that is in this section, what you have to do is you have to get the scroll thing to show. I don't know if you noticed, but when I first clicked on here, I couldn't see that scroll thing at all. Okay, so I don't want you to miss out on the reading. There's actually quite a bit of reading down here. So you might have to play around with your cursor or your toggle button to make this thing occur right here. Okay, so that said, what I recommend is read everything that is in section 1. Now, another important insight and tip is that you do not ever need to read anything that is in purple or lavender text boxes. You do not need to read anything that is in this kind of weird orangey pink text box. And you do not need to read anything that has a thin blue line next to it. I don't think that this section has that, but that is original text. I encourage you to read the original text, but I don't have students read original text on their own. If I want you to read original text, I will read it with you. So what I would do is then after you read that first section, you've got a sense of what the section in that chapter is as a whole. You have some familiarity with it. Then you go to the questions and you do the questions for section 1. Then when you're done with those questions, you stop, you pause the questioning phase, and you go back to the reading phase. So then I recommend you go to the next section, read through all of that section, and then start the questions for that section. All right, so those are my tips, my warnings, my overview, my rationale for anything and everything related to the SMART book and the Lawhead way of introducing philosophy to you. I just want to stress the importance of reading the assigned sections as lectures, approaching them as lectures, as intellectual encounters, not just another reading, but actual lectures that I might actually give in class. With that said, I hope you enjoy your formal introduction to philosophy and that you begin to see how the topics that you responded to during week 2 in constructing arguments will be relevant to what philosophers are interested in.